Welcome to this lecture. So let's get everything all together now in this lecture. So what we just did was, in the first couple of lectures before, we just made a keylogger which was named with this main keylogger. So you can simply just convert it to the basically in our exe file with this PyInstaller. So first of all, you have to just install this PyInstaller by pip package. So first of all, just type pip install PyInstaller, and let's get that all package. In my case, I have already installed that, so it will just say already installed, and now you will say something like PyInstaller, and in our case it is main keylogger.py file. So if you do this, it is going to convert. So before that, you have to navigate to the folder where you have this main keylogger. So in my case, it is in the desktop. So I'll just go over here, and if I just do dir, then you can see I have this main keylogger.py. So in order to convert that Python file into the exe file, it should be done with this PyInstaller, and I'll just say that is main keylogger.py. If I hit enter, it is going to grab all the file, and you'll just build now, that is the backdoor or the keylogger. Basically in this case it is a keylogger, and it will be just do some tasks over here, that is converting, and now within a minute it is ready. So you can just go to the dist folder, and over here you will have this main keylogger, and this is your file which is with the extension of .exe. So it is very easy to convert. So we have now this file that is in the web server. So if I just go to the Kali Linux, and if I just go to the computer part var, and we have in this www html, and I have in this file. So this was our Python file, and this is my main keylogger.exe. Now this is executables. So we'll just get this executable to be downloaded in the Kali machine, or basically in the Windows machine, which is the client now. So let's go to the PyCharm, and you could see this was the download we just talked about in the previous lecture. We just saw how we can just download that images. We saw how we just respond with this request method, and we get that 200 status code, which determines that it was valid, or basically there was the request to that URL. And I have also told you that this path, which is your URL, should be the absolute path. It cannot be something that is leading to maybe HTML page or something like that. It should lead you the file. Either it can be the image file which contains the virus, or the APK file which contains the virus, or the executables which contains the virus. So in my case, it is inside here. So you could see it is inside this file folder in this main keylogger.exe. And now let's go over here in the Windows, and if I just solve here, that is the first thing we have to go in this is in your network. So when I just open this, you can see it has shown the hackers world. So before that, you have to have that Apache server running in your Kali machine. So in order to check, you can see that is in my here I have run that is Apache server. So in order to run Apache server for yourselves, what you need to do is simply type service apache 2, and if you type status, it is going to show if it is running or not, but I want to just start it. So when I just type start, in my case I've already started. If you want to stop, you simply type here stop. So now you can see that your home page will be rendered in the client side. Okay, why I'm opening that, I have to open this Windows. So after that, we have that keylogger in the file. So file is basically folder where we have kept that keylogger.exe. So when I just press enter, it is going to give us the information of that file. And now we are not going to download this main keylogger.py. Now we have to download this main keylogger.exe. So if I hit enter, this is going to give us directly the main keylogger, which is what we just want in the URL. We don't want any page to be rendered. Instead, we want this exe file to be downloaded when we just pass that URL. That means we have now that is absolute path. Let's go to the PyCharm again, which is our Kali Linux. Let's open here. So now what I want to do is make use of this download method. So I'll just make use of this download method. We'll just pass here that is a URL of that keylogger, and let's make user to download it. So in this download method, let me just get that is the result first. and the result will be from this request dot get method. We have already seen this get method. It is going to take a URL that is sent over here in this download method. And now what you want to do is you want to get the URL, and if you see, our URL is going to look something like this. So our URL will be 192.168.1.11, which is my IP of the Kali. After that it is inside this file, and after that it should be main, and it should be keylogger.exe. so this will be our URL. Let's check one more time. So if I just see in these files, you can see it is the main keylogger.exe. and okay, why I'm opening this? So I just wanted to grab everything because I don't want any misspell over here, because this should lead you directly to the main keylogger. So let me just paste it down here, which is our main keylogger. Now if you just run this path in your client machine, this is going to download you the main keylogger. So we have to just get that over here. What I want to do is, first of all, we have to only gather the file name because we want to just run this main keylogger. So first of all, let's extract only this main keylogger, or basically the file name of our evil file over here. So in order to extract, I want this URL to be split. So I want to split maybe from, that is dash, which is basically the forward slash that determines we are just taking something that is out of this URL, which is with this slash. And I want from the last. If you do from the first, there is one thing that is a file folder. So basically if you do from the last, that is going to get only this part. So this is going to be our file name over here, which is done. So if you just remember in the indexing part, what we did was, this was the negative indexing, that refers that we are just indexing from the last of the file name. So next thing what I want to do is open now, and I want to open that file name, which is the same file name. In our case it is a main keylogger. And if you just remember, this statement is going to be executed, or this statement is going to just download the main keylogger in our Kali. So that means after you download, you can just execute it over here. So we'll just execute it with this write binary, and I'll just say is out file. We have learned the file handling in the previous lecture, so this should not be any problem for you. So the out file dot write. So now I want to write, that is the response with this result. So I have shown you what this content does. We'll also see about this content in the upcoming lecture, while we'll make our own web crawler with the Python. But now this content is going to get the content of the file name, which in this case will be the result. So now what you need to do is simply call this download method. So if you just remember what was the content of our main keylogger, if I just go in this main keylogger, we had this send Gmail. So this was inside our main keylogger itself. That means we don't have to just get the request basically from here. Or basically what I mean to say is, instead of just having the send mail in this download, which will be in the normal cases, because if you just made something that is a simple keylogger and it doesn't have the send Gmail, then you have to implement this send Gmail over here in the download.py. But in this case we have already the send Gmail method in the main keylogger. That means we won't be executing that SMTP server again in this download.py. But what we are going to do is, we are going to just execute now this main keylogger file. And if you just remember, what we just did in the previous section was this backdoor, and we use so many methods in this backdoor to execute the command. And if you just remember, we had that is a sub process module in order to just call for that responses, or basically to execute our payload on the shell. So let's do something, that is, first of all, I want maybe that download to be called, because first of all we want this download, and in here I want this URL to be sent, because I want this main keylogger to be downloaded. Let's paste it over here. Now we have sent this to the download. Now we have already downloaded this, so this basically download method is going to download. Now we have to execute that main keylogger on the shell. So in order to execute that, I'll just say that is sub process. So we have already imported that sub process, and you know this sub process is going to execute the command on our shell. And we have so many methods in this sub process. One is check output, which we do normally if you want the result. If you want a result, so basically what happens is, if you want the result and if you want to send that to the Gmail, then you can use that check output. But in this case, we have already, that is the Gmail send Gmail method inside our main keylogger. That means we don't want result in this case. We don't want anything like this, that is check output. We want to only run that as a popen. So I'll just say popen is the method that is going to run, which is our text, or in this case which is our main keylogger. So I'll just say main keylogger, make sure this is the same file .exe. This is going to execute, and I'll just say it should be executed in the shell. So we just did here, that is to execute this command, which in this case the downloaded keylogger in the client in the shell. So now we don't have to send mail, because we don't want this method, because it is already in the keylogger. This is going to just send us over here. So we'll just remove this. If it was the case, like maybe you say something like you made the payload that is going to have a reverse shell, but it is not going to give us any information, in that case you have to first type here, instead of popen you have to use check output, because check output is the method that is going to give us a result, and that is the result of the command. And after that result, you get that result, you are going to send that result to the Gmail. But in this case it is not possible, because it is not possible, or you can also do it, but we have already done it over here, so it is useless to do again, because we don't want to send Gmail multiple times. So let's go over here, remove this send mail. I think you are getting my point, what I'm talking about. So we have already this send Gmail, which is in the case of this main keylogger. So we don't want this check output, because check output is going to give us a result of that command, and popen is going to execute that command. So basically we just did here, that is the execution of popen. Now what you can do is simply, I'll just run this. So in order to run, so we don't want to run this, basically we have to first make this file executable by again the client. So in order to do that, let me go back here in my Python projects, or a PyCharm project, which is right here, and the name here will be download.py. So you can also convert this py file to the executables, and we'll show the packaging technique in the next lecture. But for now, what I need to do is simply go to the var where our server is hosted. So it will be in the HTML. So inside file, I'll just put this download.py. Let me just copy this and paste it over here inside this download.py file. Let's go back to our here, that is in the client side. So you can just refresh this page, you will see now the download.py. Let me just download this first. Let me save this, open the folder where we have this download.py, and okay, I just close the window machine. So here I want to close this, and let me just run the command prompt, because I want to just run that file. So I'll say download should be executed. So let me hit enter, and it is showing that it hasn't imported the request module. Obviously it doesn't contain the request module. So first of all, you have to install that request package over here. So you can see that we have to make again the client to install that request package, which will obviously this client is not going to do that. So what you can do is, we have to make this download Python file into the executable, so that no module should be installed by this client. But in this case I'm going to do that, because the packaging technique will be learned in the next lecture. So now I want to execute this download.py, and again it is showing the exception maybe about the file. Let's go back to our PyCharm and let's see what is happening. So it is main keylogger.exe, maybe the file name has the problem because this should be given with HTTP. So let's put everything over here with the HTTP and let's execute it again. And now let's go back and we have to again change the file. So it was the download file. Let's copy one more time. Let's go here and let me just replace. So I have replaced over here. So let's go back to our window machine. Here I'll just run again this python download.py file. So before that, it is not the same file we just downloaded. We have to go again to the server of the Kali machine. So I'll just go here inside the file. We have to download again this download.file, and let's save this. View downloads. Okay, I just downloaded. Let's go back here. We should have this download, and let me just remove this first. Let's execute over here. So what I'm going to do is I'll just execute this download.py, and it is executing now. And it is saying that there is some module that is not opening, but if you could see here, we have this main keylogger. You could directly see that this main keylogger has been downloaded. So let me show you one more time. I'll just close this. I'll just maybe I won't close CMD because we have to navigate again. So instead of closing, I'll just remove this main keylogger and this spec file too. So let's see this download file, and let's see if I just run that Python file, which is download file, it is going to download us that main keylogger that we created in this Kali machine. So let's see. So I'll just say, that is, let's go first in the Python, or basically in this window, and I'll say just see over here in this file which is in the download file. So if I just hit enter over here in this python download.py command, if I just press enter, then let's go over here and let's see that it has now main keylogger, and this is the application. So you could clearly see now this is the application just running. So whatever I type now here, let me say I just type again the google.com, and here I'll say, hey, it is Google who is running. So let's see if we captured this or not. So in order to see it, let's go back to our Kali machine. Let's open my Gmail because keylogger is going to log out all the file over here. So let's wait for some time because it is going to give us information. So let's see if this will work or not. Let's see what is happening. So I think I didn't catch it. Yes, it has not been caught. So let's go back and run it one more time. Maybe I'll just run it one more time. Sometimes it happens, so you have to just run it one more time to check if this is working or not. So let me again, okay, I have to just type cmd. Let me say I want to run the python download and tab in order to download it. So it has now again the main keylogger, so it has downloaded. That means if I go back to the Kali Linux, you will see that this process has been executed. It has executed and it has given us that main keylogger file. But now this process has to execute. So one thing you can also do over here is you can simply say check output and just print that output. So this can be also done in order to see that, and this will also work. So now we have this main keylogger.exe running. So let's check if this works or not. So let's go back to Kali, and you could see this is the main keylogger and this is working maybe. And now all I want to do is I want to go again to here and let's write something. Maybe let's see, hey Google, how are you doing? maybe some message like this, and let's see. I will just go to the Hotmail to Hotmail login. So we went somewhere here. So let's go back and see if this works or not. So let's go to the Kali machine. Let's work here. Okay, it is working. So it is taking time, and you could see that it has captured everything that we just typed, but it is taking time. So you could clearly see I had typed this, "Hey Google, how are you doing?" key and enter. So it is working. Let it give a time, and it should give you information of the Hotmail too. So let's go back here in the Kali Linux, and I have, okay, we are in the Kali Linux obviously. So let's go over here, that is in this PyCharm, and let me show you that you can also do something like you just take the output with this check output, and you just type that is check output over here. So basically what this method is doing is, let me show you over here in the Kali machine. What this is doing is, after you just download it, which is the method, download method is called, you are just opening the CMD again, that is going to be the shell which is done by the shop process, and you are saying something like main keylogger which is downloaded .exe is been executed like this. But you could see that we don't have that python37.dll file which is going to load the library. So you can use, that is, check output method in order to simply work with that. So basically what happens is you can send this through the mail. Instead of just having this send Gmail over here, you can just type that method over here that is defining the send mail, and you just capture that result like this result over here, and send that result to the Gmail. So we can do that. So let's see, we can just send mail. So before that you have to get the SMTP server and everything again. We have talked about the blogger in the previous lecture, so that is also doing the same task. So what you can do is simply grab that blogger and paste that file, that is the blogger exe file, in your here, which is in this var HTML, and here is the web server, and you can just type here that is the same code which is in this PyCharm, and you can just download that blogger on the client, and you can just execute that command with this. So this will be wrap for this lecture. See you in the next one.